What's going on, everyone? I am super excited today because we are actually playing some new set 3 cards in my AHSOKA aggro deck today. Now, the cards aren't available on Carabas yet, so I couldn't showcase it there. There are some mods that work with it, but for the convenience of recording today, I've got some matchups on Force Table. So it's going to be against an AI, but we're going to give them the best chance possible by giving them the best decks in the format right now. And we're going to see what AHSOKA Tano is capable of. And of course, just playing with some of the new cards, albeit within some familiar shells. If you want to see more of this with some more set 3 focused decks like New Gunray or Wat Tambor or Yoda or anything like that, let me know in the comment section down below, because if you all like this a lot, I will go ahead and play more of this. I play it all the time just because I'm having fun, but I figured I'd record it today for you all. So I got 2 decks to try out. Before we get started, big thank you to my supporters on Patreon, guys. The list gets bigger and bigger. I feel like every day. There's been so much conversation on the Discord, and we got in so many games over the weekend. So if you want to join, chat with me, join in some games, let me know and join the Discord and join the Patreon. Second thing, I have a TCG player link in the description down below. Be sure to use it for all of your Star Wars Unlimited card needs. And let's talk about AHSOKA Tano. So I'm only going to talk about it for a little bit because we got 2 decks today. And to be honest, most of the deck is what you're familiar with. We have a familiar Rebel sort of shell, but we are trying to go in on Coordinate. And more importantly, not even her front side, but her flip side being a 5/6 deploying on 5 resources. We have a couple things with that. So first off, we are playing a couple of new cards. Soldier of the File first, nice 1-drop that's going to actually survive. These 3 toughness 1-drops are pretty important, I will say, in order to actually survive 2 later turns and even consider having multiple units for Coordinate. The other card that we're playing that's a little bit new is AHSOKA Padawan's Lightsaber. This is going to give us kind of like a surprise trick, but exclusively for AHSOKA for 1 resource. It's really nice. If you have Coordinate, it's going to be a 7/6 AHSOKA Tano that attacks, which is kind of crazy. We are playing Admiral Yularen to hopefully pump up some of our early drops to allow them to survive. You play Clone Deserter, Soldier of the 501st, you follow up with Yularen, and suddenly they're 4 toughness, which basically puts them out of range of anything on turn 1, which is pretty important. And then we got some other cards in Batch Brothers, creating a couple of units when it comes into play. 2/1 and a 2/2. General's Blade, this is like our Darksaber for AHSOKA. The reason why we're using General's Blade instead of Darksaber is that it allows us to be more resource efficient. You get it on AHSOKA Tano, you get +3/+3. You lose out on a point of power, but you actually get to essentially play something that costs 4 or less instead of something that costs 2 or less, because you'll attack with AHSOKA and get something down since she is a Jedi. I think General's Blade is really good and better than Darksaber in this deck. And then we also have Captain Rex, just a 1-of, but we're running ECL in this deck, so we're kind of traditional aggro with a couple of adjustments. The second deck is going to be a lot more exciting for set 3, but let's try this out in some games against Sabine and Boba Fett in the meta right now. So for our first matchup, we got the AHSOKA versus the meta Boba Green list. This is pretty much what you're seeing in the top 8s of all the planetary qualifiers right now. We're just going to do random start, and we're going to give it the default AI behavior. I'm not sure what's the best. I don't play that much Force Table, but I'm just going to go with the default AI. And we're going to see what we can do here to start us off. I might have to shrink myself down a little bit here because I'm not used to Force Table. Let's shrink myself down. Looks like we started off with pretty interesting hand. We do have Podameron and Wrecker and K2SO for the ECL shenanigans. We got the double Fleet Lieutenants. I think this is a mulligan hand. We don't have a great explosive start, so I think I'll just mulligan this. Double Admiral Akbar doesn't look appealing against Boba Green. And this one, okay. Admiral Yularen looks kind of interesting. I like K2. I'm going to go ahead and resource the Padawan's Lightsaber. And I think I'm going to actually resource this R2-D2 because I'm going to get down this Battlefield Marine on turn 1. So let's go ahead and play that Battlefield Marine down on turn 1. They're going to go ahead and take the initiative, so we're going to pass. Drew ourselves Admiral Akbar, which actually looks pretty interesting here. And I think I'm going to keep that. I think I'm going to resource the Captain Rex. It's a little bit expensive, and I think we're kind of not necessarily excited about that in this spot. So let's go ahead and just attack in with the Battlefield Marine. We're not going to get to coordinate. Remember, we need 3 or more units. Looks like they have a 7th Fleet Defender here coming in. And we're just going to go ahead and play the Admiral Yularen. So this is going to give the Battlefield Marine an additional point of toughness, which I actually do like. And we're going to pass the turn. Drawing ourselves a red 3, which looks pretty bad against the 7th Fleet. So we're just going to go ahead and resource that one. And I think I'm just going to get down the K2 here. So it looks like they're racing a little bit. Let's just go ahead and play the K2. And now we have the coordinate active, and it looks like they are going to have the potential to get down Boba Fett this turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attack with the Yularen here. Now I'm just going to attack with the Yularen into their base, and we're going to restore 1. Get a nice restore going. They're going to attack us for 1, and I am going to ignore Boba Fett. I know Boba Fett comes down this turn, but right now, he would just straight up trade or kill Battlefield Marine. He would kill not K2 or Yularen, because Yularen's going to keep him alive. So I think what we do is we just use the action to attack their base for a total of 4 points of damage. And we let Boba Fett deploy. And we're going to take the initiative at this point, and we're going to see, it looks like they're going to ignore us and just go straight for the base here, which is kind of interesting. Let's go and resource that red 3. Now, here's what's interesting about this turn. I can get down the General's Blade and then actually play Admiral Ackbar on the same turn, which is kind of interesting. Now, here, I actually would like to go ahead and just straight up use the action ability with AHSOKA to attack with my Battlefield Marine first, because it's the most likely to die. They have 6 resources. They can get down a Fett's Fire Spray this turn. Looks like they're going to attack my K2SO. So we're just going to attack with that into their base, make sure they can't avoid any sort of damage by bouncing the Salacious Crumb and dealing with damage. Normally, in Boba Fett's case, they probably just kill the Battlefield Marine last turn. And then in this turn, I would have been able to actually go ahead and just straight up kill Boba Fett and allow K2 to survive. But then they would have had to use the action to bounce the Salacious Crumb to kill the K2. So we would have been in a different spot for sure. But I think we are definitely way far ahead, because this is going to be now and we're going to make them deal 3 damage to the base. This is going to be an insanely powerful AHSOKA Tano. Now, because it's Boba Green, they could have No Good to Me Dead and all that type of stuff, which is a little bit rough if they do have it. But if they play No Good to Me Dead, they're on 4 resources. We can always go ahead and ECL Wrecker next turn. So that's still an availability to us. And even if we don't get to attack with AHSOKA, we still can play the Battlefield Marine. So let's go and get down the General's Blade on AHSOKA and check this AHSOKA out. She is currently an 8-10. And then we're going to be able to attack in with AHSOKA for a total of 8 points of damage. And boom, 8 chunks, 8 damage. We get to go ahead and then play an Admiral Ackbar. And then we can actually kill Boba Fett, get him off the board. And then it looks like they got a Boba Fett's armor, which they probably should have played way before. So that's something that that's kind of a mistake from the AI. And we're going to take initiative, and we're going to be able to attack with AHSOKA Tano again. So I don't think the AI played particularly well, but it kind of did exactly what we wanted to do, right? We played our early units, curved out Marine, Yularen, K2. Yularen actually looked pretty impressive there, just because you had the K2 surviving the Boba attack, and then the 3 extra point of toughness kind of survives a couple of different things that can come down earlier on for Boba Fett. So I liked that. And then, of course, General's Blade on AHSOKA makes just AHSOKA really unkillable and a really threatening character, especially considering that we can start deploying more threats after that. So we're just going to go ahead and attack with AHSOKA, get this game finished with, and, well, that's going to be game 1. So let's load up some new decks here and put in Sabine Green. Randomize the start. Looks like player 2 is starting the game, so they get to start. And, well, we got a very different hand. I'm not going to mulligan this one. We're going to try this one out. I don't like Captain Rex or For a Cause, but we have a really nice 1-2 because we get to go R2-D2, Soldier of the 501st into Batch Brothers. And, ooh, actually, you know, Yularen could actually go ahead and kill something. Yeah, Battlefield Marine. Well, we could go ahead and play the Soldier of the 501st, which is going to end up being a 1-3. And if they decide to attack the Soldier of the 501st, suddenly our Admiral Akbar is going to get some things done. Fleet Lieutenants attack into our base. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if someone did that to me if they were playing a normal Sabine deck. So I'm not really surprised that would happen. But look, Admiral Akbar coming in is going to be able to kill one of their units. And then we're going to be able to go ahead and actually get in for a decent chunk because we're going to use the action with the AHSOKA Tano, attack in, and this can actually just straight up kill the Fleet Lieutenant, which I am actually interested in doing here. So now they have no units on the battlefield, and then we're going to be able to attack with the R2 into their base. There is an A-Wing. Don't care for that. Let's put it on the bottom. Get in for one, and then let's pass. Drew ourselves another K2. I think we can go and safely resource that one. Batch Brothers can come down here. Ooh, looks like they're going to ECL out to kill the Admiral Akbar. Very interesting, very interesting. Okay, in that case, I think I am just going to go ahead and play the K2SO. They're going to go ahead and deal damage. Let's go ahead and attack just their base here. Clone Deserter. You know, I think we can put that on the bottom. I think we're looking for a little bit more excitement. Podammer would be an excellent draw here. They've had a pretty interesting curve. I think everything that the AI has done has been relatively correct. Like, I don't think anything should have been done completely differently or anything like that. Here, what I'm going to do is play the Yularen and Sabine. Ooh, they're going to get in for a bunch of damage here. And, ooh, wow. Okay, they're going to attack K2, which means that I'm going to actually use AHSOKA's action to attack their K2. And yes, we're going to make each other deal 3 damage. And then they're going to make us deal 3 or take 3 damage here. But I think we are pretty far ahead because we get to play the Sabine Wren. And remember, Yularen actually ended up doing some major work because otherwise K2 would have died without getting the attack in. And now we can ready up AHSOKA. We get to go ahead and attack in with AHSOKA into their base. And then we get to attack in with R2 into Sabine and kill off Sabine. That's a red 3. You can go ahead and bottom that one. Not exactly super exciting. I could have ECL'd out to the Sabine Wren. And again, that would have survived because of Yularen here, which is kind of crazy. Don't need to resource anything realistically. Looks like they have a time intervention, Podammer. Ooh, okay. So that could knock out Yularen or AHSOKA. I'm a little bit surprised. Normally someone would have taken out AHSOKA if they had the timely Podammer in here. So that one, kind of strange. But if they did do that, I would have gone ahead and ECL'd out. Probably just, well, I couldn't have ECL'd out anything really here in this spot. So we have had Yularen. I guess if we kept Yularen out, I could have killed the Fleet Lieutenant with Sabine. And that would have been a pretty nice spot for me. But instead, I mean, I think we're in a very, very good spot. So here, I am just going to go ahead and attack in with Sabine Wren. Guarantee my damage here. They're going to attack in. We get to attack in with R2. And that's a Clone Deserter. We can put that on bottom. So they're going to attack. And they could have, what they could have done is just taken initiative, but then we would have traded our AHSOKA Tano with their Podammer. But what do I want to do here? So I can ECL out Clone Deserter, but then if they have Heroic Sacrifice, they just kill me. We're 1 damage short right now. We are 1 damage short. Yeah, I think what we do is just kind of do what we are going to do, which is action, ECL, go ahead and play a Clone Deserter. So now that Podammer doesn't actually kill us. So we trigger ambush, attack this, kill off the Fleet Lieutenant. So we restore 1. Both of those things die, and they get to draw a card. So they're going to deal damage to each of us, which is not a smart play because, of course, we can just ready up the coordinate again to go ahead and get AHSOKA Tano extra power and win the game. So that's probably not necessarily something that they would have done, a normal person. But overall, I mean, that was a pretty close game. I am pretty impressed with how consistently AHSOKA Tano comes down with coordinate. But that's like a standard Rebel aggro deck. We didn't even see like a ECL Wrecker or ECL Podameron on the right turn. Like we didn't draw them on the right turns. And that's where the deck gets really crazy, because we could potentially have a turn where we ECL out Podameron, keep Podameron alive, have something else on the battlefield, and have AHSOKA as a 5/6 all at the same turn. But of course, the AI doesn't necessarily play the best game, so just keep that in mind. I think this was pretty interesting to see. I am really impressed with you, Lauren, so far. I've had a lot of games, of course, but even in the games that you're seeing, just the act of +0/+1 ends up putting a lot of random cards out of your opponent's favor in terms of attacking into it. Like they had a K2SO, suddenly, yes, they can eventually kill you, Lauren, and eventually kill both, but that temporary advantage goes a long way. So I really have been impressed with you, Lauren. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and showcase the other deck that I wanted to play with AHSOKA Tano and jump into some more matches. And this is the other variation of AHSOKA I wanted to play today. Now, again, there's probably a million variations of AHSOKA out there that everyone wants to try. These are just the ones that I immediately just kind of drummed up and wanted to play for you all today. This one's a little bit more focused on disruption and getting in nice chunks of damage with guaranteeing that you have a lot of units out there. Some of the other new cards that we get to play, well, we've got still the Batch Brothers, Ahsoka Padawan's lightsaber. We've got ourselves the Soldier of the 501st, but now we've got R2-D2, nice little 2/4-on-2 resources, gets a little bit of value when he comes in. AHSOKA Tano herself as the unit variant, which isn't really going to get ambush all that much, but to be honest, we don't necessarily need her for the ambush. It's just because she has the really, really early force tag. We also have Heavy, who's going to have that raid 2 more frequently in this deck because there's more 1-drops available. We have Sabine Wren, who's also a nice addition in the cunning aspect because of her ability to deal 2 damage. Also a 4/4-on-4, which can be pretty cool. And instead of having the ECL Poe, ECL Wrecker combination, which I do think is very strong, we have Plo Koon, who's going to give us that ambush on 5 without having the ECL. And instead we get Petranaki Arena. It gives us 1 extra HP, but it also gives us AHSOKA Tano 1 additional power. I don't think this is nearly as strong as Energy Conversion Lab, mind you, but it does give us a little bit of cool value with AHSOKA. I do also want to try Droid Manufactory for you all, which gives you the 2 Battle Droid tokens when you deploy a leader. So AHSOKA's going to come down with guaranteed coordinate, which is kind of cool. So let me know if you want to see that in potentially a future video, but let's go ahead and run into some games with this AHSOKA yellow deck. All right, and we got ourselves a game against Sabine Wren. Same settings as last time. Do I want to mulligan this? Honestly, I'm a little bit concerned because I don't have a turn 2 play, right? Cartel Spacer R2 is a great turn 1, but, and here's the thing, I don't necessarily, I'm pretty likely to draw a turn 2 play because R2 here. So R2 comes down and I get to look at the top of my deck. I do want to put that on the bottom because I don't want to be playing Soldier of the 501st. They're going to use the 1 damage trigger and we're going to go ahead and play the Cartel Turncoat. And now we get to take initiative and let's see what we draw. Perfect. Green Squadron A-Wing, Force Throw. We got ourselves the Surprise Strike here. Still, I think we can resource this Force Throw. I shouldn't say perfect because it wasn't necessarily like amazing. I would have loved to draw 3 resource play, but we are going to go ahead and get down this A-Wing because then we can go ahead and use this action with AHSOKA to attack for 2. And look, that's a Plo Koon. We can go ahead and put that on the... Oh, do we want this actually? Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep that on top because it can come down at the same turn that... Oh, they're going to ECL out their Disabling Fang Fighter to kill my Cartel Turncoat. There's a 1-of Disabling Fang Fighter in this deck, I believe. Let's go ahead and resource that L3. And, well, we're going to go ahead and play a Heavy out because it's going to give us the coordinate. Ooh, and that's a dark saber on Battlefield Marine. Okay. I did not necessarily expect that. Let's go ahead and attack in with R2. That's a Greedo. We can put Greedo on the bottom of the deck. That is a little bit of a scary Battlefield Marine. I'm not gonna lie, everyone. They're gonna attack for 7. I think that ignoring my units makes a decent amount of sense, especially since they can hit for a ridiculous amount. We ended up drawing Spare the Target, which is actually pretty good here. And giving the Darksaber to the Battlefield Marine allows Sabine to attack for an additional point of damage, which is pretty nice. But now we get to go ahead and spare the target the Battlefield Marine. Ooh, and they're going to get a Fleet Lieutenant down and attack for 5 points of damage, which is a little bit scary. We get to go ahead and action AHSOKA here, attack for 2. That's a Batch Brothers. I can put that on the bottom. But then we get to go and attack with Heavy for 6 points of damage. Attack with the A-Wing for 3 points of damage, up to 14. And then we get to go ahead and... what? We get to go ahead and Surprise Strike as well. So we Surprise Strike, attack, and that's going to be the end of the game, actually, because we just have that much damage. Now, here's the difference. If they had played Darksaber on Sabine instead of Battlefield Marine, which is the normal play, they would have attacked with Battlefield Marine, guaranteed that little bit of damage, and then they would have put the Darksaber on Sabine, which would have attacked for 6 points of damage, plus 1, right? But they wouldn't have gotten the additional pump for Sabine. But they would have most likely been able to attack with Sabine again. The only thing is, we still would have been able to kill the Battlefield Marine. So, what is this? It would have been another 3 points of damage. I think we would have lived at 1 HP, even with the Fleet Lieutenant. But I'm not 100% sure on the math on that from, the previous couple of turns. But I will say it's a little bit abnormal to see Darksaber on the Battlefield Marine so that we could spare the target. So I think we would have lived on 1 HP, awkwardly enough. But again, kind of the initial setup for this was pretty nice. Let's go ahead and play that one again. It was a pretty quick game. And I'm just curious to see how another one of these types of games will go. Pretty expensive hand, but we do have a curve out. I think we could do a little bit better. We have a lot of 1 resource plays in the deck, and I am kind of looking for that. Cartel Turncoat, Soldier of the 501st, and AHSOKA Tano. We get to resource the Hotshot Blaster and the L3, which I like. Okay, perfect. So we get to go ahead and drop in the Soldier of the 501st. And this is the nice thing about... okay, they're going to go ahead and get down the Sabine Wren. I was going to say, this is the nice thing I like about Force Throw, is that it works exceptionally well with AHSOKA Tano unit. Now, they have... ooh, wow, they're going to ECL out that, which is going to be really rough. Now, what we could do here is we could attack in... I think our opponent would probably ignore the Soldier of the 501st, to be honest. But I think what we do is actually attack into the Sabine Wren to get a couple points of damage on it, and then just play out the AHSOKA. I think everything that my opponent did there, nothing too crazy about it. Like, keeping your red 3 alive makes a decent chunk of sense. Let's go ahead and resource... Actually, do I want to resource this L3 instead? I think I do, because I think what I want to do is just attack. Actually, let's just go ahead and play Force Throw. Force Throw my opponent. They get a timely intervention. So we get to get rid of red 3 here. They have a timely intervention of their own, and they're going to go ahead and Ketsu Onyo attack my Soldier of the 501st. Okay. So now we get to go ahead and attack in to their Sabine Wren. Timely intervention, Ketsu's not a very strong play by any means. We get to go ahead and play R2 now, and then we get to discard this AHSOKA to look for, I guess, potentially another AHSOKA. think I'm just going to take the surprise strike so that we can actually kill some of these units over here. And then we get to take initiative. Let's see if they decide to attack the base. They do. I think an opponent would probably just go ahead and hit my my AHSOKA Tano there. So what can we do here? So we can attack with AHSOKA. I think what we do is we go ahead and play Surprise Strike and kill their Sabine with R2. They're going to get a red 3 down. And now what we can do is go ahead and attack their Ketsu with my AHSOKA. And then we get to play the Millennium Falcon. And then we get to attack their red 3. And then we get to deploy AHSOKA. And then this AHSOKA could go ahead and kill Battlefield Marine. So we ended up being a lot more controlling this game. But I think it ended up working out pretty nicely. There's AHSOKA's lightsaber and a heavy. Do I want to pay 1 resource? I do. So I think what I do here is... I think I play AHSOKA's lightsaber. And I will attack with the R2 into the base. And then I will attack with Millennium Falcon into the base. And then I will go ahead and equip Hotshot Blaster and hit for 10 into their base. So that was a big chunk of damage. Wow. Okay. I do really like AHSOKA's lightsaber, by the way. The ability to change it up and attack a different unit, use the attack for the AHSOKA's lightsaber on a different unit is really nice. Here, so I get to play. If I play heavy here, they are forced to kill Millennium Falcon. I think I just attack with R2 to see if they attack my Millennium Falcon. Because like here, there's nothing in Sabine's arsenal for 3 resources that prevents them from dying this turn. So now we just win. Okay, pretty nice, pretty nice. So our opponent didn't really do Poe Dameron ECL or Wrecker ECL. I think that's a big kind of power differential. But to be fair, I mean, this game, they didn't even have Poe Dameron or Wrecker available to them. So in this particular matchup, I'm trying to remember what they could have done differently. I think attacking my AHSOKA unit a little bit earlier is pretty interesting, but we did have another one, and we did have that force throw, which is really good in that matchup. Getting a 1 resource way to essentially kill one of our opponent's units is really massive. Just getting that 1 resource advantage, slowing down the game just enough. And AHSOKA becomes huge really quickly. Like 5 power to begin with is insane. Pretty interesting stuff. Let's go ahead and load up the Boba Green now. Yet again, let's randomize this and see what we can do with AHSOKA Yellow against this matchup. Pretty poor hand. We have like, what, 11 1-drops in the deck? We have none of them, and we have some 2-drops. Okay, this is a significantly better hand. I'm gonna go resource the force throw and probably the lightsaber. And we're just gonna go ahead and start off with an R2. No, I want to start with the soldier, the 5-0 first. They have a Cloud Rider. Okay, they're gonna go ahead and kill that, and then we just get to go ahead and get down a Greedo here. So Cloud Rider, usually they're playing 1 to 2 of those in any given deck. Okay. So here, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to go ahead and play R2, discarding this R2 to try to find another 1 resource play. And look at that. That was absolutely perfect. We had to grab this Cartel Turncoats. They put a Boba's armor on their Salacious Crumb, which is a little bit scary, I will admit. And we get to action Greedo and attack for 4 into their base. I actually don't hate the Boba's armor on the Salacious Crumb, to be honest. It's going to resource the Hotshot Blaster. Wouldn't be surprised if... Okay, they're going to no good to me dead the Cartel Turncoat. I'm going to just action straight up the Greedo into the base. They're going to hit Greedo, And oh, they're gonna bounce it. Okay, well that was obviously not what you would have done if you went with the Boba Fett's armor play. We get to go ahead and get down the Sabine Wren here, and then we get to attack in for 2 into their base here. As I said, Boba Fett's armor on Salacious Crumb that early, not a terrible play to slow down the game a little bit, but definitely a terrible play if you're bouncing the Salacious Crumb afterwards. So let's go ahead and action attack with the Sabine Wren here into the base. And I will go ahead and discard the top card. And it doesn't share an aspect, so I go ahead and deal 2. I can deal 2 to the Salacious Crumb or the Bazine. It doesn't necessarily matter all that much. The R2 can go ahead and attack in for 2 here. They're going to ready up Boba Fett here. And I think what I would like to do is actually just go ahead and... Okay, if I ready up AHSOKA, they could have Hotshot Blaster. So I think I just want to play Plo Koon here. And I would like to ambush the Boba Fett. Just get 6 damage on Boba Fett. Really nice big chunk. Remember, she cannot be attacked, Sabine that is, when she's exhausted. So Boba Fett couldn't even have attacked her. And now we get to flip AHSOKA. Let's see if they have something for 5 resources here. Nope, they're just going to attack, and we just get to attack their base for 5. Ignore what they've got going on. They got a resupply here. Okay, definitely not a great showing from Boba Fett here in this game. No doubt about it. We're just going to straight up win the game here as we get to play this Hotshot Blaster on Plo Koon, and we get to go ahead and get in for 8. I do really like Plo Koon here. It felt really nice to have a consistent, raid 3 unit. I wonder if they resourced that Overwhelming Barrage. They did resource one of them, so they could have had like Overwhelming Barrage on Boba Fett after flipping him. So we would have gotten the Plo Koon down and then hit the Boba Fett, let's say. They would have Overwhelming Barrage the Boba Fett, killed most likely Sabine, dealt some damage to R2. But they still would have had to contend with Plo Koon and a flipped Ahsoka Tano and Cartel Turncoat eventually. Or they just Overwhelming Barrage, kill Cartel Turncoat, and damage Sabine. So that's not even necessarily that great. But, I mean, the critical misplay there for them was absolutely the Boba Fett's armor on the Salacious Crumb and then bouncing it. If they had kept the Salacious Crumb with Boba Fett's armor on it and just attacked, like, one of our earlier units, I think that would have just been amazing. Or, in Greedo's case, they don't even need to put Boba Fett's armor on it, and then they can just bounce it and kill Greedo. Either way, that was definitely something that I would not have done. But even if they had gotten Boba Fett's armor down on Boba Fett, we would have ambushed the Plo Koon out and hit the Boba Fett for 6. So I really do like Plo Koon here. It doesn't quite kill Boba Fett, which is a little bit unfortunate, but a nice little setup. Let's go ahead and play another one, because I think our Boba Green opponent can do a little bit better than what we saw. This is... not a bad hand. I'm not going to mulligan this. I'm going to go ahead and resource this Hotshot Blaster and this Surprise Strike. So we have a decent curve out. We get to go ahead and play the R2 here on turn 1. And we got ourselves another Cartel Turncoat. I actually don't want to put that on the bottom. I think that's a totally fine card to keep in our on the top of our deck right now. And okay, they get to go Maclunky plus kill my Cartel Turncoat, draw a card, which is exactly kind of what you're a little bit afraid of here. So not amazing draws. Let's go ahead and just resource this Cartel Turncoat or the Surprise Strike here. And then I think we'll just go ahead and attack the Greedo here for 1. Batch Brothers. No, I actually like Batch Brothers here. They discarded a Darth Vader. They're going to ambush out a Cloud Rider to kill my R2. Not sure if that was a play that most people would make in that spot. I don't know what their hand looks like. Yeah, not playing anything afterwards. Kind of weak. Yeah, let's go ahead and resource this Sabine. We get to go Batch Brothers plus Soldier the 501st. Okay. They took the Soldier. I think in that spot, I probably would have just taken the Plo Koon because it's so powerful. But let's go ahead and play out the Batch Brothers. And then we get to get a point of damage in with Cartel Turncoat. So our opponent has a Super Laser Technician or resupply at all, which is part of the main strength of Boba Green, to be honest. So not seeing that yet is a little bit surprising, and I think that's definitely a clear, massive mistake from our opponent. But now we get to go ahead and play Plo Koon. We get to go ahead and ambush out, hit the Boba Fett for 6. They get Overwhelming Barrage. They get to finish off a bunch of units. I think in that spot, you probably just go ahead and kill off like all the units in the ground. They're going to attack here. I think a normal opponent would have just attacked the clone token with Bazine, and then I would have attacked with Batch Brothers. They would have passed probably, and I would have not been able to flip AHSOKA this turn. But I would not have taken the additional 6 points of damage here. But I think in honor of trying to play this as accurate as possible, I'm just going to take initiative here because I think a normal spot in that game would have been the fact that my opponent would not have gone ahead and attacked immediately. But they also would not have gotten the Boba Fett's armor down if they had not attacked, because I would have taken initiative. So this game's definitely thrown way off whack because of it. Let's go ahead and play out the Millennium Falcon. He gets +2/+2, which means we can no longer kill him here. I mean, I can't prevent myself from deploying AHSOKA the whole game. I'll let them kill the Clone Trooper token. Let's go ahead and play the Force Throw on my opponent. They probably have a 1-drop. Yeah, we can hit the Greedo. It doesn't really matter. We can play the AHSOKA's lightsaber, attack with the Millennium Falcon into the base. And then we attack with AHSOKA into the base. Hit for only a measly amount because there's no coordinate available. Let's go ahead and pay 1 to keep the Millennium Falcon running. So they ignore AHSOKA. Probably not necessarily what you would do in a normal game. But let's go ahead and play Plo Koon. We get to ambush, kill off the Boba Fett. I think my opponent doesn't really know how to play Boba Green. I think if you're playing like or like here, that you definitely in this spot definitely just finish off the Plo Koon so you can get rid of coordinate, so you lose the 2 points of power on this. But now we get to attack for a whopping 8 points of damage. They get some Maclunky, finish off AHSOKA, I suppose, but now they're just lethal on board. I think my opponent just doesn't know how to play Boba Green. Like, I don't think the AI knows how to play. I say opponent, but the AI doesn't really know how to play Boba Green. I think they are, like, they resourced Maul at this point. Like, you definitely don't resource Maul at this point. What else did they resource? I don't think resourcing Reinforcement Walker or Maul or Darth Vader at the beginning of the game, is too crazy. Resourcing Super Laser Technician on turn 3 is a little bit weird. Normally you want that down on turn 3, like that's when you want it. And then you can ramp out Boba Fett a turn early. So I do think the AI just does not know how to play Boba Green. But I think it did a decent job of playing Sabine comparatively. I think there was a couple options where, maybe a player would have chose to attack and kill a unit. I think AHSOKA does have a lot of potential. I think she's a very tricky leader to build around, especially because the coordinates kind of portion of it means that you really want a bunch of these units. But I think having a 5-flip leader with the Force and Jedi tag can do a lot of work. I'm really excited to see more of what we can do with set 3 decks. I've been messing around with a bunch of decks lately. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments section down below. This was just kind of like an initial showcase of AHSOKA aggro. And we were able to attack with AHSOKA with coordinate many games in a row, especially in that AHSOKA yellow deck, because there's so many 1-drops. I think, again, if you're playing against a normal player, they would notice you're trying to get coordinate down, so they would take any value trades that they possibly could. And you can definitely do that when you're playing lower cost units. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. But I think it does have some potential, and I'm pretty excited for it. I will say AHSOKA is one of those decks where you kind of, like, you're an aggro deck, so your opponent with the default position kind of ignores your units a decent chunk of time. Maybe if I put Bubble Green more on the control side of things, it would have been a little bit differently, but I don't know. We'll see what AHSOKA is like come set 3, or maybe in another future video, or maybe I can get in against some other actual players. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all for the next one.